friends, we're going to talk about lesson 86 today, number families. Sometimes I get these confused. All right, number families. I think we addressed some of this in our last textbook toward the end, but I definitely want you all to be able to differentiate between the different sets of numbers. So when you were in preschool, I'm sure you learned how to count, right? And you started with 1, 2, 3, and so on, right? So those numbers are the counting or the natural numbers. And I always think it's natural to start counting with 1. So that's how I remember those two names for the natural or counting numbers. When I add 0 to this set, and remember the ellipsis means it goes on and on forever, right? This is the set of whole numbers, okay? Remember that hashtag also stands for numbers. So all of the natural numbers or counting numbers are within the set of whole numbers, aren't they? But I can't say that backward because all the whole numbers are not in the counting numbers because the whole numbers include 0, and 0 is not a counting number, right? I don't start counting and say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, don't do that. All right, so we have the natural numbers or counting numbers. Then we have the whole numbers. Then when we start adding the negatives, right, then we have, and we're going to do like a dot, dot, dot because the negatives go on forever in one direction, in both directions. So these are the integers, right? And so that's even more involved. I'm going to run out of room. All right? So we don't want fractions with our integers like 1/3 and 1/2. We know that we could write our whole numbers as fractions, but we don't want to include 5/2 and 7/3 and such in the integers. We just want the whole numbers and then their opposites, okay? And then when we start to include fractions, we have the rationals. Okay, and so that's going to be the 1/2 and the -7/3 and the 2.5, right? Or numbers that repeat, or terminate, like 1.5, okay? So, and then all of these, of course, are under the umbrella of the real numbers, and we'll talk more about it. But first, I just want to make sure you all know, like, which set is within the other. So if I said to you, are the whole numbers a part of the integers? Like, is every whole number considered an integer? Yes, right? Because the whole numbers are within the umbrella of the integers. Okay, are the rationals within the whole numbers? No, there's lots of rational numbers that are not whole numbers, so that would not be a true statement, okay? Now, looking at, before I do example 1, I want to go to example 2. Okay, so it says, answer true or false. All whole numbers are integers. Yes, all the whole numbers are in the integers, so that's true. Okay, for B, all rational numbers are integers. No, we just listed some fractions. They're not integers, so that's false. Okay. So make sure that you draw this diagram and make sure you understand what fits in what set, okay? And for example 1, when it says to graph the integers that are less than 4, so if you're just graphing integers, everybody, okay, you don't want to do a line, because you don't want a solid line because then you're including fractions. So when it says to graph integers, okay, less than 4, then we would want to put a dot on 3. That's an integer that's less than 4. 2 is an integer that's less than 4. 1 is, and 0, and it goes on, -1 also. And then so what you're going to do is darken the arrow to indicate it keeps going. But the pattern is only the integers. You're not doing a solid line, Okay, that would include all the fractions in between, and we don't want to do that. So when you're told to just graph integers, you put dots, okay? All right, so go to the practice set, A through D. Stop the video, and you can come check in a few minutes. All right, so for A, you are graphing integers greater than -4. So you might want to show -4, show it, but no dot on it. -3, -2, -1. 3 is enough, but 4 is really good. And make sure you're indicating that it goes on forever in the positive direction. So make sure this is darker than that arrow. Okay, it doesn't have to be blackened, you know, completely where you scratch out the page, make a hole in it. But do indicate it's darker. For B, you want the integers less than 4. So here's 4. You're considering 3, 2, 1, 0, and darker in the negative direction. For C, every integer is a whole number. No, -3 is an integer, but it's not a whole number. So that would be false. And for D, every integer is a rational. Yes, every integer fits under the definition or the umbrella of rational. The rational numbers are quotients or ratios of integers, right? So any time you can make a ratio or a fraction of integers, that's considered rational, right? Okie doke. Refer to RedWeb, get your assignment. Best wishes, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.